So good morning and welcome to our special session this morning. And this morning is all about enthusiasm. How do you maintain enthusiasm? And when I got into this, it was really interesting because I'd been doing some research about motivation. I'm always looking for new tips on motivation. How do you help somebody? And I ran into this YouTube that I was watching, and a member of an audience for a speaker asked this question. She asked, "How do you motivate all your people to be like you?" And the speaker said, "You don't." And I was like, okay, that caught my attention. He said, "No, you don't." He said, "Listen, I want to buy the New York Jets. I don't expect all of the people around me to want to do that because I'm nuts. I want to buy. Listen, there's a lot of people out there that'll make 50,000 or 100,000 or 200,000. They'll be perfectly happy with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not normal. I want to buy the New York Jets. It's going to cost me like $7 billion. How do you figure out how to get somebody motivated to go make $7 billion extra? You don't. You can't do that. So that got my attention. And it got my attention because he's absolutely right. If I was able to get onto a national audience and said, "I've got the key to keeping your enthusiasm up on a daily basis," everybody would show up. But the truth of the matter is, I can't do that. If I could bottle it and be a millionaire, billionaire, whatever I'm not, like higher. So that's not what this is about. If you want to be average, be average. Do all the things average people do. Don't do anything that'll make you stand out. Just do the average stuff. There's an awful lot of people out there that are average and they like it. If that's what you want, go ahead and do it. Be average. When students come to me, I make an assumption. Sometimes it's wrong, but I make an assumption that you don't want to be average, that you want to be better than average. If you want to be average, you don't need me. You can be average all by yourself. Just don't do anything that'll make you stand out. That's it. Don't ever do anything that'll make you stand out, and you'll be average. And some people are okay with that. And that's okay too. But know this: the consumer who's going to pick their listing agent and or buyer agent is not sitting there saying to themselves, "Let me go find somebody who's average. Let me go find somebody who doesn't stand out. I'll use them." That's not what the consumer is doing. They're always looking for somebody who's above average or well above average. Now, by the way, they do that, and then they want to, of course, get you to do it for less. They want you to cut your commission, but that's a different topic. But the consumer is not looking for average. So if you decide that you want to be average, just know that the consumer is not looking for you. So if they find you, it's an accident. Now, by the way, there are a lot of accidents out there, okay? There are a lot of people who are working clients, and for lack of a better term, well, here, I'll be nice. They just shouldn't be. There are agents out there that I don't know why they're in real estate. They don't do anything. I could stop right there. They don't do anything. They just let it fall in their lap. 2 years ago, guess what? That worked, right? How good did you have to be to put deals together. You just had to be breathing. Okay. If you had somebody who was thinking about selling their home, you didn't want anybody else to know because you knew it was going to sell right away. The only question was, could you be the one that would sell it? Every time the market goes crazy, there are agents out there who take advantage of it, who cross the line and do things that aren't legal. It happens in every great market because you don't need other people to succeed in a great market. But that market's changing. It's already changed. And so now we need people again. And now you can't be average. If you want the consumer to pick you, you know how I'm always saying, pick me. If you want them to pick you, well, then you got to do things that'll encourage them to pick you. And that was the topic for today. How do you generate and maintain enthusiasm on a daily basis? Now, every bit of training out there says, oh, that's just a matter of your goal isn't big enough. If you're not doing it, your goal isn't big enough. Listen, I know some people that have some really great goals. And what I mean by a great goal is everything makes sense. They're doing it for the right reasons and still can't hit it. So it's not a matter of just having a great goal. That's not going to do it. You know, my goal could be, I want to be the center for the Boston Celtics. That's never going to happen, no matter what, you know, because I'm too old. Well, there are other reasons, you know, short, out of shape. But if I set that as a goal, it's not realistic. When people tell you, set a goal, they're only giving you a small part of what you need to do. They're not giving you everything. I know some people that say, well, the goal is the beginning. You got to find your true purpose. I like that. Find your true purpose in life. Why are you here? What are you doing? What's the point? When I ask people, and I do, why are you in real estate? I get some crazy answers. Oh my God. Some people I turn around and I go, it's like a Ouija board. You know, they had a Ouija board, or what was it? Used to be the 8-ball. Remember the 8-ball? Well, you may not remember the 8-ball. The 8-ball was, you just took the 8-ball, you shook it up, and then it would tell you what you were supposed to do. That's what I got a feeling some people are doing when they get into real estate. I can just see them shaking it up. Be a realtor. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. And they're horrible at it. I mean, listen, here's what I do believe. And I believe this 150%, if that's possible. I believe that anybody can be a good realtor. And the reason I believe that is me. You couldn't be anything further from being a good realtor than I was. I had no clue. I was a tool and die maker. I didn't have the foggiest idea of what sales was all about. But I learned. And it started with the right training. And then it became a matter of learning from my mistakes. Some of you know I like to bowl. I had a practice session with my coach last night. I was all excited about it because over the weekend, he won a doubles tournament with one of his other students. They won a big tournament. And so I was looking forward to practice last night because I figured I was going to get the words of wisdom from all of his success on Sunday. And here's what he said. He said, boy, I'm lucky my partner had a good shot. Because he says, I didn't have a good shot all day. I just tried to stay out of trouble. I learned from that. Some days, not your day. You don't have the shot that's going to carry all the strikes, but you're working with a partner. And if you can make shots that'll allow you to have good spare leaves so you can just make the spares, sometimes your partner is going to carry you all the way to the finish line. And that's exactly what ended up happening. And so during our practice session last night, the way I was throwing the ball, he finally turned around and he said to me, he goes, "Are you using that ball because you don't want to strike a lot?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, because you're leaving all kinds of spares. And if that's your purpose today, that's okay. If your purpose today is to be shooting at spares and making spares, that's okay. That's a good thing because we have to learn to make spares. But if your goal today is to throw strikes, I'm going to give you a little tip." I said, "What's that?" He says, "You're throwing the wrong ball. Lanes just aren't oiled for that ball today." So he suggested a different ball that I had brought with me. And I threw like the last 7 strikes in the game. We have to be ready to learn when the opportunity presents itself. Nobody, and I mean this, nobody could have predicted what COVID was going to do to the market. Every expert there is said that the market was going to go right in the tank. Yes? And yet it was the exact opposite of that. Right? My wife asked me the other day, she said, "Did a lot of agents get into the market, get into real estate when COVID hit?" I said, "I don't know, but I don't think so." She goes, "Well, usually in good markets, don't a lot of agents get into the market?" I said, "Yeah, but nobody predicted this." And so there weren't classes that were going on because you couldn't meet in person. So we had a tremendous market without an influx of agents. Matter of fact, I can't prove this, but I would say we lost agents. We have to be ready to adjust. When we talk about enthusiasm, how do you maintain your enthusiasm every day? Every day. How do you do it? Yeah, I believe it starts with a goal, but I don't think that's the end. I think there's a lot more to it. I think your purpose comes into play. Why are you doing this? If you're doing it for you, odds are not going to work. Why? Experience tells me it's not going to work. If you're doing it for others, well, then let's get specific. What about them? Are you doing it for your kids? Help them? Are you doing it for your parents? You know, maybe you're to the point now where, you know how they say you raise your kids up until it's time to start raising your parents. And then you have to do that. Right? And they're a lot worse. Kids are easy compared to raising your parents. That's crazy. Why are you doing what you're doing? What's the end goal? Are you doing it because you want to leave a legacy behind you? You want others to remember who you are? I've heard that one. I don't know. Here's what I do know. When people ask me, what is the secret to enthusiasm? My answer is simple. I don't have a clue. I know what the secret to my enthusiasm is, but I don't know what the secret to yours is. I think the secret to enthusiasm is different for everybody. Matter of fact, I know it is. I know the secret to enthusiasm, say, for example, for Larry, is totally different than what it is for Chris. I know that because we talk every week. And what gets Chris going is not the same as what gets Larry going. And it's not the same as what gets Mark going. And it's definitely not the same as what gets Lindsay going. It's different for all of us. we all have to be able to sit down and figure out what it is. Some of you have heard me say this before. I used to wake up every morning and I used to say to myself, somebody out there needs me. They just don't know where to find me, so I better go find them. That's what got me going every day. You've heard Chris say on these calls, he wakes up every morning and says, I'm unemployed. I need to fix that. That's what gets him going. What gets you going? That's what you have to figure out. Why are you doing this? I better figure out an answer quick because Sherry had a knife. I thought she was going to use it on me there for a minute. Did you see that was that was a big knife? I better make sure I'm right online here, because if she figures out how to get that thing through the camera, I'm in trouble. Enthusiasm is personal, but without it, we don't succeed. It's easier every morning to turn around and say, yeah, I don't feel like it today. I'll do it tomorrow. If you ever want to really figure out what enthusiasm is, read some stories about Kobe Bryant. Some of the stories about the way he conducted himself are just like off the charts. I remember seeing this one player turn around and talk about a practice that they were going to have. And he said, I decided I was going to be the first one to practice. And so I got up early and had my breakfast early. And I went down there. And when I got down to the gym, Kobe was already there, sitting down with ice packs on his knees. And he said, and it took me a couple of minutes to figure out he wasn't just earlier than me. He had already done his workout. He'd already completed a workout. And he said, and my mind had to grasp the fact that this was only a few days after he had just lost in the finals. Just a few days after he had lost in the finals, here he was sitting there before anybody else, and he'd already done a workout. That was incomprehensible to this player. What drives you? It can't be the awards. I can tell you that. I can tell you early on, getting an award is pretty cool. It just is. Yeah, first time. Chris, you remember the first time you walked on stage getting an award? Oh, I forgot I put him on mute. But the first time, it had to feel pretty cool. The first time, maybe even the second. But then eventually, guess what? It's not the award anymore. Then we start thinking, it's what got us there. It's all the stuff we had to overcome to get us there. And that's the enthusiasm. That's what's missing in most people. Because I will guarantee you, every top producer you will ever talk to won't talk about the successes that they had. They'll talk about the failures. They'll talk about the mistakes they made. They'll talk about the issues they had to overcome to get there. That's what top people remember. Because everybody has mornings that they get up and say, yeah, I'm just not going to feel like it today. The difference between top producers and average producers is top producers get up anyway. They find the reason to get up and go do what's got to be done, in spite of the fact that they're not in a good mood, in spite of the fact that everything's going to crap around them, in spite of all that. Somebody ran a red light and hit them, hit their car. In spite of that, they still went to work, did what they needed to get done. You think they weren't mad that somebody ran a light and hit them? Of course they were. But they didn't let that screw up the rest of their day. Why? Too many people are depending on them. Nobody wants to hear it. Oh, they'll give you the empathy thing. Oh my God, that's so bad that somebody ran into your car. They're not sincere about it. They don't care. They care about themselves. And they'll say it that way. By the way, did you get a hold of our mortgage rep like you said you were going to? In the meantime, you're sitting there going, I gotta go. I gotta take the car in. I gotta get an estimate. I gotta do that. You're going, all that stuff's going through your head, and your client is sitting there going, hey, you were supposed to call the mortgage rep. Enthusiasm is what gets us doing the things. In a lot of cases, we don't want to do them today. We can find 100 different excuses why not to do them. Do it anyway. That's what you've got to figure out. What is it that will get you doing that? What is it that gets you up when you don't want to? I know I'm only speaking to the guys when I say that, because women get up anyway, in spite of all the crap that's going on, they still get it done. But why is it they can't translate that into real estate? They can translate it into everything else around them. Why can't they get it translated into real estate? There will be a trigger. It'll hit you eventually if you're looking for it. I ran into a younger bowler last weekend. He was taking a lesson with my coach, and the coach walked away, and I was just standing there, and he was asking me some questions. And I said, let me ask you this one question, since you're asking me a bunch. I said, do you practice? He says, yeah, 2-3 times a week. I said, that's great. I said, do you practice with a purpose? He went, what do you mean? I said, well, what do you practice? He said, well, I just throw the ball. I said, oh, so that's not practice with a purpose. He says, I don't get it. I says, you're just practicing to throw strikes. That's all you're doing. He said, well, yeah. I said, that's not practice. Practice with a purpose. I said, there are some games, all I want to practice is shooting the corner pins. 7 pin on the first ball, 10 pin on the second ball. Because I want to improve on my spare shooting on those spares. So I practice them. Sometimes I'll throw a ball that I know is not going to strike much, so I'll leave spares so I can practice more spares. Sometimes I'm throwing a ball that I want to strike. I want to see how often I can. Practice with a purpose. Should have seen his face light up. He was sitting there with his dad, and he turned around to his dad. He says, that's what that other guy was doing. Well, as it turned out, he watched this guy and he couldn't figure out. He says, the guy was a really good bowler, but his scores in this practice session were horrible. I said, he wasn't practicing strikes. He wasn't trying to throw strikes. He was practicing something else. What do you do every day? Prospect with a purpose. What are you looking for? Are you looking for a first-time home? Are you looking for properties that maybe you don't have in your inventory? I talk to producers all the time about you need to have first-time homes, you need to have move-up homes, you need to have higher-end homes. Why? Because one of those 3 markets is always moving, always. And if you don't have inventory in one of those 3, then you know what you'll end up saying to me on our call? Boy, am I slow. The market has slowed down. No, it hasn't. You just don't have inventory in the part of the market that's moving right now. Prospect with a purpose. I talked with somebody recently about open houses. And the conversation revolved around the fact that, I'm for those of you who don't know me well, I'm not a big fan of open houses. But if you're going to do open houses, you need to do them for the right reason. In my mind, the reason I did open houses was to find more sellers. So I didn't do open houses the way most normal people do. I didn't do, Sunday 1 to 3. I did open houses on Saturday afternoon or Thursday night or something like that. I was looking for something different. I was looking for more listings. And what ended up happening was this person came into an open house and talked with our agent. and ended up listing their property a few weeks later. And I said, well, wait a minute. I said, didn't you ask them if they had a place to sell? And the agent said, yeah. I said, well, then your mindset should have switched. You shouldn't have been thinking about selling the house then, because by the way, 93% of the time, people don't buy the house they come into at an open house. I know last 2 years, things were different. That's gone. Forget about that. This market's different. Okay. Normal market, 93% of homes do not sell at an open house. So why are you doing the open house? In my mind, get sellers. Now, if you're thinking that way and somebody comes in and they sign and you ask them, hey, do you have a place to sell? And they say yes, your mindset should go to, okay, I need to talk to this person about their place. But in this case, that's not what happened. The agent kept talking to them about the property they came to see as an open house. They didn't end up following up, and that person listed their home with somebody else. Why? Because our mindset wasn't in the right place. It wasn't thinking about, hey, this person might have a place to sell. That's not what it was thinking. Enthusiasm comes from our purpose for the day. You want to know how to get yourself excited every day? Have a different purpose for every day. Wake up every day and think, today, this is what I'm going to accomplish. If you try to accomplish the same thing day in and day out, I figured this part out. I just came to this realization, by the way. You'll be proud of me. Realtors would not make good NASCAR drivers. I figured this all out by myself. I'm going to love this. Let me repeat it so you get this now. Realtors would not make good NASCAR drivers. Now, if you don't know what NASCAR drivers is, look it up because I'm not going to go through all that. But NASCAR drivers, it's pretty simple, race car. So think about how this works, okay? You get in the car and your pit boss says, okay, just go down the straightaway, take a left. What do I do next? Well, as soon as you come off the curve, go down the straightaway, take a left. What do I do after that? Well, as soon as you come off the curve, go down the straightaway, take a left. It's just repetitive, right? Go down the straightaway, take a left. How tough can it be? So you get in the car. And guess what you do? You go down the straightaway and you take a left. And you do it over and over and over. And when you finally stop, the pit boss says, nice job. You're a driver. Okay. When do I make money? Oh, you want to make money? Well, then you got to drive against other drivers. When does that happen? Sunday, 3 o'clock. We'll put you in the car. Now, all of a sudden, you got 33 or 34 other guys. Guess what they're all thinking? Go down the end of the straightaway, take a left, right? And now you got to go in and out and in and out and in and out. It's kind of like all the stuff we go through as realtors. We got to avoid all the problems. Well, all these other cars are problems. And so the first race, maybe you don't do so well in the second race, but then finally you get a race where, guess what? Every time you went down the straightaway, took a left, you were out in front. You won it. You made a whole bunch of money. And now you say to the pit boss, how do I keep making money? Oh, we got to do that every Sunday. It's the same thing every Sunday. Go down the straightaway, take a left. Realtors would not be good at that. How do I know? Because most realtors aren't making a lot of money right now. Why? Because they don't repeat the things they need to do to be successful. They don't repeat them. I don't know a top producer on the planet that likes prospecting. And yet they know in order to be successful, they have to find a way to generate more leads. Nobody likes it. I hated it. I knew that's how you make money. Go down the straightaway, take a left every day. Every day, go down the straightaway, take a left. Oh man, I don't want to do that every day. Well, then you're not going to be a successful realtor because that's what you got to do. You got to be willing to do the things that most others are not willing to do, and you need to do them on a daily basis. You need to do the things nobody else wants to do on a daily basis. That's how you make money. How do you do that? You have to have something that triggers you every morning to go do the things nobody else wants to do. And if you can do that, just like Kobe Bryant, if you could be out doing your workout before anybody else is even in the building, I guarantee you he didn't like it. His knees hurt all the time. That was a guy that played with so many injuries. And most of the good players, you find out, they did. Larry Bird had such a bad back, and yet all of a sudden somebody would talk a little bit of smack to him and make him think that. And I remember Charles Barkley was mad one time. He said the Boston Celtics were disrespecting him. And they said, why? And he says, because you put a white guy on me to defend me. He put Larry Bird on him. And he just shut Barkley down, but he felt disrespected because he put a white guy on him. All of those players have something in common. All of the great players have something in common. They're willing to do what others aren't. What are you willing to do? When you can figure that out, you'll stay enthusiastic every day. And when you don't, take the day off. Because by the way, if you have 4 days where you're enthusiastic, you do all the things you're supposed to do, 4 out of the 5, take the 5th day off, you earned it. I tell my students all the time, you'll never impress me by telling me that you're working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. That never will impress, not that you have to impress me, but that never will do it. Tell me that you work 3 days, but put 3 deals together and scheduled 2 listing appointments and spent time with your family. That's the person I want to meet. I want to know how that person's doing it. Because if I can figure out how that person's doing it and bottle it and help you with it, it helps everybody. I hope you picked up a tip or two. I'm going to shut the recording off now and let all those people that are here ask some questions. So let me do that first.